You do not beg, you do not hope, you do not wonder if there is enough or if you are allowed, or if the universe will approve your request, or if today is the right day, or if you have done enough good deeds to deserve it. You simply know. You walk up to that invisible counter with the inner certainty of ownership, with the quiet confidence of someone who has never been denied, with the natural ease of someone accessing what is already theirs. You sign the withdrawal slip with your consciousness, not with a pen, but with your assumption. You write the amount 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, it does not matter, because the supply is infinite. You write it not with hope, but with knowing, not with desire, but with claim. And you walk out as though the transaction has already cleared. You feel the weight of the money in your consciousness. You feel the relief of having it. You feel the freedom it brings. You feel the generosity it allows. And it has cleared because in the world of imagination, all transactions are instant. There is no processing time. There is no waiting period. There is no 3 to 5 business days. There is only the assumption. And the assumption is the substance. This is not metaphor. I need you to hear me clearly. I am not speaking poetically to entertain you or to make this teaching sound mystical and impressive. I am describing the actual structure of creation. This is how reality works. Every human being has access to an invisible vault of infinite substance. Not some human beings, not the special ones, not the anointed or the chosen or the lucky or those born into privilege. Every single person who has ever drawn breath, who has ever walked on this earth, who has ever said the words I am, has within them the capacity to access this vault. You do not access it through effort. You do not access it through worthiness. You do not access it through good deeds or positive thinking or vision boards or affirmations or any of the shallow techniques the world tries to sell you. You do not access it by working 80 hours a week or networking with the right people or being in the right place at the right time. You access it through assumption, through the simple, radical, revolutionary act of assuming that you already have what you desire. Money is not earned, it is claimed. Money is not achieved, it is accepted. And the moment you stop trying to deserve it and start knowing you already have it, the outer world has no choice but to deliver the evidence. Let me go even deeper now. There is a teaching I must give you that will sound backwards, that will offend the rational mind, that will contradict everything you have been taught by your parents, your teachers, your society, your religion. You have been praying to God for money. You have been asking for millions. You have been on your knees, hands folded, head bowed, begging the heavens to bless you, to provide for you, to open doors for you, to make a way where there seems to be no way. You have been waiting for God to reach down from some far-off throne, some distant heaven, and hand you what you need. You have been treating God as something separate from yourself, something outside of yourself, something that may or may not choose to help you, depending on whether you have been good enough. But I tell you this, and I tell you plainly, and I tell you with all the authority of one who has tested this truth and proven it over and over again, God does not give, you give. You do not receive wealth from a source outside yourself. You are the source. God is not out there. God is in here. I am is the name of God, and I am is your own wonderful human imagination. When you say, I am wealthy, you are not stating a hope. You are not speaking a future tense. You are not declaring an intention or setting a goal or making a wish. You are decreeing present reality. You are speaking creation into being. You are exercising the only creative power that exists in the universe. And because imagination is the only creative power in the universe, What you decree in consciousness must appear in experience, not might appear. Not could appear if you are good or lucky or blessed, or if the stars align, or if you jump through the right hoops. Must appear. It is law. It is inevitable. It is as certain as gravity, as reliable as mathematics, as dependable as the sunrise. It is the way reality operates. And it has always been the way reality operates, and it will always be the way reality operates. Let me say the of misinterpretation. You do not ask God to make you rich. You assume you are rich, and God, your own I am, hardens that assumption into fact. This is the reversal. This is the teaching that the churches will not give you, because if they gave it to you, you would no longer need them. You would no longer need the priest or the pastor or the guru or the teacher. You would no longer need to go through intermediaries or petition saints or light candles or perform rituals. You would realize that you are the temple, you are the altar, you are the priest, and you are the God being worshipped. You are not the beggar at heaven's gate. You are not the child waiting for the Father's approval. You are not the servant hoping the master will notice your good deeds. You are the one sitting on the throne of creation, and every assumption you make is a command that reality must obey. Every I am statement you speak is a divine decree that sets forces in motion in the invisible realm, forces that must and will eventually manifest in the visible realm. Do you see it now? Do you feel the shift happening inside you? Can you feel the old paradigm crumbling, the old beliefs dissolving, the old limitations falling away like chains that have been cut? This is not about becoming something you are not. This is about recognizing what you already are. You are not seeking wealth, you are wearing it. You have always been wearing it. You simply forgot. You let the world convince you that you were small, limited, dependent, lacking, at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control. But you were never any of those things. You were always infinite. You were always the operant power. You were always God in human form, dreaming the dream of limitation, playing the game of forgetting, and now you are waking up. Now you are remembering. Now you are coming home. Now let me take you deeper into the law itself. Let me strip away every remaining veil, every last illusion, every final doubt. Let me tell you the greatest secret ever hidden from man. The secret that has been buried under centuries of religious dogma and economic propaganda and societal conditioning. Here it is, and I want you to hear it with your whole being. What you assume to be true becomes true. Not eventually, not conditionally, not if you are good enough or worthy enough, or if the planets align, or if you follow the right steps, or if you please the right people. Always, in every case, without exception, without variation, without failure. Assumption is not a technique, it is the engine of reality itself. It is the mechanism by which the invisible becomes visible. It is the bridge between the formless and form. It is the way God creates. And since you are God individualized, it is the way you create. You do not assume in order to get. You do not assume as a means to an end. You assume because assumption is creation. The moment you assume wealth, you have wealth not in the future, but now, in consciousness. And consciousness is the only substance there is. Listen carefully to what I am telling you. Everything you see in the outer world, the buildings, the cars, the money, the people, the circumstances, the events, all of it is simply consciousness pushed out, made visible, hardened into form, crystallized into matter. The outer world is not the cause of your experience. The outer world is the effect. Consciousness is cause. Your assumption is cause. Everything else is effect. The tail does not wag the dog. The shadow does not create the substance. The reflection does not determine the face. It is always, always, always consciousness first, manifestation second. When you walk through life assuming lack, you command lack into existence. Not because you want lack, not because you are trying to create lack, but because assumption is created, and it creates what is assumed, regardless of whether you want it or not. When you walk through life assuming abundance, you command abundance into existence. The universe does not care what you want. It does not respond to your wishes or your hopes or your desperation or your prayers or your bargaining. It only cares what you are. And what you are is determined entirely by what you assume yourself to be. If you assume you are poor, and the universe will reflect that assumption back to you in 1,000 different forms. You will have experiences of poverty. You will meet people who reinforce your poverty. You will encounter situations that confirm your poverty. You will see evidence everywhere you look that you are indeed poor, not because poverty is your destiny, but because poverty is your assumption. If you assume you are wealthy, you are wealthy. And experiences of wealth. You will meet people who reinforce your wealth. You will encounter situations that confirm your wealth. You will see evidence everywhere you look that you are indeed wealthy. Not because wealth chose you, but because you chose wealth through your assumption. Do not confuse this with belief. Belief is weak. Belief is passive. Belief is tentative. Belief requires evidence. Belief says, I will believe it when I see it. Belief waits for proof before committing. But assumption is the exact opposite. Assumption is strong. Assumption is active. Assumption is certain. Assumption says, I will see it because I believe it. No. Even stronger than that assumption says, I do not need to believe because I already know. To assume is to take something for granted without proof. It is to accept as fact that which has no evidence in the outer world. It is to treat as reality that which the senses deny. And the moment you do, proof rushes in to confirm it. Not because you earned it, not because you convinced the universe, not because you finally did enough or became enough or proved enough, but because the assumption itself is the creative act. The assumption is the seed, and the outer manifestation is simply the fruit. The seed does not become a tree by effort. The seed becomes a tree by nature. You plant it, and nature does the rest. You assume wealth, and the Lord does the rest. Most men wait for proof before assuming. They say, show me the money, and then I will believe I am wealthy. They say, give me the evidence, and then I will accept that I am blessed. They say, prove to me that this works, and then I will try it. But the master knows this is backwards. The master knows that proof follows assumption, not the other way around. The master assumes first, and proof follows, always, without fail. The master does not wait for permission from the outer world. The master claims the state in consciousness, lives in that state, thinks from that state, and allows the outer world to catch up. And it always does. It must. Because the outer has no power except the power you give it by continuing to assume from it. Now, I must tell you the bridge between the invisible and the visible. I must tell you the secret that makes assumption come alive, that transforms it from intellectual concept into creative force, that turns it from theory into experience. That secret is feeling. You can assume wealth in your mind all day long, but if you do not feel wealthy, your assumption is sterile. It is intellectual. It is abstract. It is empty. It is like a seed that has been planted but never watered. Feeling is the secret, because feeling is the language of creation. Feeling is what gives assumption the power to manifest. Feeling is the fertilizer that makes the seed grow. When I say feel, I do not mean emotion. I do not mean excitement or enthusiasm or forced positivity or jumping up and down with fake joy. I do not mean the surface level feelings that come and go with circumstances. I mean the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the quiet inner knowing that what you desire is already yours. It is the sensation of relief, of satisfaction, of completion, of arrival. It is not a loud feeling. It is not a dramatic feeling. It is the feeling of naturalness. It is the feeling you have when something is so obviously true that you do not even think about it anymore. That is the feeling I am speaking of. If you want millions, you must feel as though you already have them, not as though you will have them tomorrow, not as though they are on their way, not as though you are working toward them or manifesting them or attracting them, but as though they are in your possession now, as though the transaction has already cleared, as though the money has already hit your account, as though the work is done, You must walk with the inner composure of wealth. You must think from wealth, not of it. Do you see the difference? Do you understand what I am telling you? Thinking of wealth means you are outside of it, looking at it, wanting it, hoping for it, reaching for it. You are the observer, and wealth is the thing observed. There is separation, there is distance, there is longing. But thinking from wealth means you are inside of it, living it, being it. You are not the observer, you are the observed. There is no separation, there is no distance. There is no longing. You have become what you desire. And you will see it. The beggar does not ask if he will receive. He asks as though he has already received. His hand is out, not in hope, but in expectation. He does not wonder whether the coin will come. He assumes it. And because he assumes it, it does. Now imagine you took that same assumption and applied it not to pennies, but to millions. Not with your hand out to the world, but with your consciousness raised to God. You would discover what I am about to show you. Assumption is the only wealth there is. You have been lied to about money. You were told it is scarce, that it must be earned, that it flows only to the lucky, the brilliant, or the connected. You have been taught to chase, to hustle, to prove yourself worthy of wealth. And because of this lie, you have spent years, perhaps decades, in lack, no matter how hard you worked. But I am not here to teach you how to work harder. I am here to reveal the metaphysical truth that undoes every illusion you have ever believed about money. Money does not come from the outer world. It comes from consciousness. The millions you want are not out there, waiting to be found. They are in here, waiting to be claimed. The moment you stop seeking wealth outside yourself and start assuming it within yourself, the entire structure of reality shifts. What you assume, you become. What you feel to be true must harden into fact. This is not motivation. This is mystical instruction. If you are ready to stop begging and start commanding, stay with me now, because what I am about to share with you will restructure your relationship with reality itself. You will learn why assumption is the only force in the universe, how to enter the state of wealth before the evidence appears, why your imagination is not a tool, it is God, how to command millions, not by asking, but by decree. And I will show you through story, through teaching, through practice, exactly how to walk this path that leads from poverty to power, from limitation to infinite abundance. Let me begin with a story that will illuminate everything I am about to teach you. I once knew a man who lived in two worlds. In the outer world, he was penniless. He had no job, no savings, no visible means. His bank account mocked him with its emptiness. His circumstances screamed failure at him every single day. His friends whispered behind his back that he was delusional, that he needed to face reality, that he needed to get practical and find work like everyone else. They thought he had lost his mind. His family worried about him. His landlord threatened eviction. The bills piled up on his kitchen table like tombstones, marking the death of his dreams. Every mirror he looked into showed him a man the world had declared bankrupt, worthless, finished. But in the inner world, the world of imagination, he was a millionaire. Every night before sleep, he would enter his inner sanctuary and live as though the millions were already his. He did not visualize getting the money. He did not imagine the process of accumulation. He did not see himself working harder or smarter or luckier than anyone else. He did not picture winning the lottery or receiving an inheritance or stumbling upon some miraculous opportunity. No, he visualized having it. Already, now, complete, done, finished. He would lie down in his bed, close his eyes, and construct a scene that implied his wealth was already manifest in physical reality. Sometimes he imagined walking into a bank and seeing a statement with millions in his account. He would see the numbers clearly, 7 figures, 8 figures. He would feel the paper in his hands. He would smell the air of the bank. He would hear the sounds around him. He would make it so real in his imagination that his body could not tell the difference between the imagined experience and the physical one. Sometimes he imagined sitting in a beautiful home he owned outright, feeling the texture of the leather furniture beneath him, smelling the scent of expensive wood and fresh flowers, hearing the quietness that comes when you are no longer anxious about money, when you are no longer checking your phone for overdue notices, when you are no longer wondering how you will make it through another month. He would walk through rooms in his imagination, rooms with high ceilings and windows that overlooked gardens he owned, rooms filled with art he had purchased, rooms that whispered of permanence and security and freedom. Sometimes he imagined a friend congratulating him, shaking his hand, slapping him on the back, saying with genuine admiration, "How does it feel to be so free? How does it feel to never worry about money again?" And you will see it. The beggar does not ask if he will receive. He asks as though he has already received. His hand is out, not in hope, but in expectation. He does not wonder whether the coin will come. He assumes it. And because he assumes it, it does. Now imagine you took that same assumption and applied it not to pennies, but to millions. Not with your hand out to the world, but with your consciousness raised to God. You would discover what I am about to show you. Assumption is the only wealth there is. You have been lied to about money. You were told it is scarce, that it must be earned, that it flows only to the lucky, the brilliant, or the connected. You have been taught to chase to hustle, to prove yourself worth. It feels like I finally remembered who I am. He felt the weight of abundance in his body, not as a future promise, but as a present fact, not as something he hoped would arrive, but as something he already possessed. He walked through rooms he could not afford in the outer world, but which were fully furnished in the inner world. He signed checks with confidence in his imagination, watching his hand move across the paper, feeling the authority in his signature. He gave generously because he assumed there was no lack. He did not hoard in his imagination. He spent freely, donated freely, helped freely, knowing that abundance was his nature, not his exception, knowing that the well would never run dry because the well was consciousness itself. And consciousness is infinite. And every single night, without fail, regardless of what happened in the outer world that day, he would fall asleep inside this sea, saturated in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He would let the images and sensations surround him completely until there was no separation between himself and the experience. He would fall asleep as a wealthy man, not as a man hoping to become wealthy. And this distinction is everything. For weeks, nothing changed in the outer world. In fact, things seemed to get worse. His circumstances remained exactly the same, or so it appeared to the physical eye. The bills still came, now with red stamps and final notices. The bank account still showed zeros, or worse, negative numbers. His friends still looked at him with pity or disdain, their eyes saying what their mouths would not. "You are a fool. You are wasting your life. You need to wake up." The world saw only his poverty, and the world, in its blindness, in its commitment to the evidence of the senses, judged him harshly. They said he was wasting time that could be spent job hunting. They said he was avoiding responsibility, hiding from reality, escaping into fantasy like a child. They said he was living in delusion, that imagination is not real, that he needed to accept his situation and work with what he had. Some were cruel, some were concerned, but all of them were wrong, because none of them understood what he understood. None of them had been taught what he had been taught. But he did not waver. He did not doubt. He did not break. Why? Because he understood something most men never learn in their entire lives. Something that is hidden from the wise and revealed to babes. Something that the world in all its sophistication cannot grasp. He understood that the inner world is the only world that matters. The outer is but shadow. The outer is only a reflection, a delayed echo of what has already been established in consciousness. The outer world is not cause, it is effect. It has no power of its own. It has no will of its own. It is simply consciousness made visible, hardened into form, pushed out into three-dimensional space. And he knew with every fiber of his being, with a certainty that transcended belief, with a knowing that was as solid as the ground beneath his feet, that if he remained faithful to his inner assumption, the outer world would have no choice but to conform. It was law. It was inevitable. It was as certain as the sun rising in the east. The only question was time. And time was simply the interval between the assumption and its manifestation, the gestation period required for the invisible to become visible. Then one day, without warning, without effort, without any action on his part that could logically explain it, a door opened, an opportunity appeared that had no logical connection to his past. It did not come through the channels he expected. It did not come through job applications he had submitted months ago. It did not come through networking events or resume updates or any of the conventional means by which the world says money must come. It did not come because he worked harder or smarter or longer hours than anyone else. It did not come because he finally figured out the right strategy or met the right person or said the right words. It came because the inner assumption had reached critical mass. It came because consciousness, having been impressed with the image of wealth night after night after night, had finally completed its work in the invisible realm and was now ready to express itself in the visible realm. Money came from a direction he had never considered, through a channel he had not even known existed. A relative he had not spoken to in years, someone he had almost forgotten about, reached out with an investment opportunity. Not because the relative had suddenly remembered him, but because the assumption of wealth in his consciousness suddenly found a buyer, someone he had never met, someone on the other side of the country, someone who had no logical reason to know about his old project, discovered it and saw value in it and offered him a sum that shocked him. Not because the idea had changed, but because his consciousness had changed and the outer world was simply rearranging itself to match the new inner reality. A debt that had been written off, that he had accepted as lost forever, was unexpectedly repaid with interest. Someone he had lent money to years ago, someone who had disappeared and whom he never expected to hear from again, showed up at his door with cash in hand, apologizing for the delay and adding extra as a gesture of goodwill. The how does not matter. What matters is this: the money came not because he worked for it in the outer world, but because he had already accepted it in consciousness. You see, the outer world does not create, it only reflects. If you are living in lack on the outside but wealth on the inside, there will be a lag, there will be a gap. There will be a period where the two worlds seem to contradict each other. The outer world moves slowly because it is dense, because it is made of matter, because it is the hardened shadow of thought, because it takes time for the invisible to become visible. But the gap always closes, always. Without exception, the inner always wins. The inner always has the final word. This is not faith. This is not wishful thinking. This is not positive psychology or motivational speaking or any of the shallow doctrines the world peddles. This is physics of the unseen. This is the law of consciousness made manifest. And the man who lived in two worlds became a man who lived in one, because the inner world, being the only real world, being the world of cause, finally expressed itself in form. Now let me give you another image, another way of seeing this truth, another angle that will help you grasp what I am teaching you. Imagine a bank that exists only in your mind. Close your eyes right now if you can and see it. This bank has infinite funds. It never closes. There are no business hours. There are no holidays. There are no weekends. It is always open, always accessible, always available to you. It requires no deposits, no credit checks, no proof of income, no references, no background verification. You do not need to qualify. You do not need to prove yourself worthy. You do not need to show that you deserve access. You are the only account holder and you have unlimited access. The vault is always full. No matter how much you withdraw, It never depletes. The teller is always available, always ready to serve you. The resources are inexhaustible, infinite, eternal. Every currency you could ever need, dollars, pounds, euros, yen, gold, silver, diamonds, whatever form of wealth you can imagine exists in infinite supply within this bank. And it is yours. Completely and totally yours. Not partially, not conditionally, not if you are good enough or smart enough or connected enough. It is yours by birthright, by divine inheritance, by the simple fact that you exist. Now imagine you go to this bank every single day and withdraw nothing. You stand at the counter and look at the teller, but you do not make the request. You open your mouth, but the words that come out are, I am not worthy. I do not deserve. I do not believe there is enough. I am too late. I missed my chance. I am not smart enough, not educated enough, not connected enough, not lucky enough. Other people can have access, but not me. I am different. I am broken. I am cursed. I am outside the circle of the blessed. What happens? Nothing. The vault remains full. The teller waits patiently. The money sits there, available, ready, willing to flow to you. But you leave empty-handed, not because the wealth was unavailable, but because you did not assume access. You stood at the door of infinite supply and talked yourself out of receiving. You convinced yourself that you were not allowed, that you did not qualify, that the rules that applied to others did not apply to you. The bank did not deny you. The teller did not refuse you. The universe did not reject you. You denied yourself. You refused yourself. You rejected yourself. Now imagine you return the next day